But I did want to comment on this. So Bruce Feldman at The Athletic put together College Football Freaks List 2022. So it's
Mm-hmm.
basically, the guys who were just freakishly athletic. And number one was Michigan's Mazi Smith. He is a very large man. And let's see, he does 22 reps on the bench press, which is, oh, I'm sorry, but that's with 325
Oh
versus
wow.
225, which usually is.
Okay.
Close grip benched 550 pounds. He vertical jumps 33 inches, broad jump 4.5. 37 tackles last season, clocked a 4.41 shuttle time, which would have tied the best by any defensive tackle at this year's combine, and would have been better than any defensive tackle weighing 310 pounds or more in the past decade. His 6.95 three-cone time would have been the farthest, or would have been by far the fastest among defensive tackles in Indy. The fastest was 7.33. Yeah, I mean he's. They talked about a reactive plyo stairs test, which is just series of jumps on some specific stairs, and basically he did it just not much slower than Aiden, and Aiden obviously is 60 pounds lighter than Smith is. So a lot of really good things being said about Smith, and it seems like this within the last week or so, a lot I've been seeing more and more comments about Mazi Smith. So originally I was thinking Mike Morris would be kind of the guy on the D line, but maybe it's going to be Smith. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean that is extremely impressive. If he did, I put if he a couple of thoughts on this. If he did this, or if he has a restate that, if he does a repeat performance of this in the NFL Combine, if he chooses to go this year, which I assume he probably will, with these kind of numbers, that's the type of performance that literally probably what does shoot you up a couple rounds at least. Like if you're a mid round pick, you have a performance like that, especially as a lineman, as a big man. I mean that puts you potentially in the first round. Like teams love that type of stuff, understandably so. Because you're looking for what an NFL team will say is, so let's say up to this point, Mazi Smith has not had the consistent performance that matches that tested freakish ability yet, right? He could do it this year, but yet, right, the results on the field haven't matched that freakish ability, raw ability. However, let's say it doesn't, right? An NFL team will look at him and they say, "Wow, all we need to do is coach it. We can coach this kid up. He can be a monster for us." So personally, for him, that's great. It's incredible. I hope he stays healthy. I hope he finds a way to improve on that already incredible freakish ability, because that's going to make him a lot of money potentially. Um, in terms of on the field, I hope that this coaching staff is able to help him harness that freakish ability, to help it translate to on the field. Because I actually like that Bruce Feldman list. I actually look at those pretty much every season. And if you ever noticed, it's rare that the guys in that list are the best players in college football. Like you have like these workout demons, if you will. They're incredibly fast, can bench press a house, squat a school, but they have problems with taking that ability to have it translate on the field, right? So, and I don't know why that is. I mean, it goes to show you that athletic ability isn't everything, and physical strength isn't everything. You have to have IQ, you have to have technique. It's a lot goes into being a really good football player. But hey, at the very least, it tells me that this kid has some untapped potential that this Michigan's coaching staff has the opportunity to try to tap into.
Yeah, and I think some of it is just polish, right? So like just your technique and the things that directly translate to your position. So it's one thing to be able to jump really high and be extremely strong, but to, have the technique of what you need to do as a defensive tackle, things of that nature, are important. But not to say Mazi Smith can't do those things. I think he's going to play really well this year for Michigan. But I just thought that was interesting. And number 2 on the list is actually Marvin Harrison Jr., the receiver from Ohio State. So I'm not going to read all his stuff, but that just thought that was interesting, that he was listed there. Look, I thought that was interesting.
Hey man, he has incredible genes. He does. His father was a beast and a burner. So not shocked by that, So I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's great to see. I think Penn State, certain schools tend to always have kids on that list. I think Penn State tends to have kids on that list most years. They do a really good job of, of getting their kids strong and stuff like that. So I think it's potentially reflects well on, the Michigan training staff and, helping these kids build their body. But just in terms of broad numbers, that's incredible. I mean, look, I'm not a 20 whatever, the Michigan defensive lineman, but just the thought of benching 325 22 times sounds absolutely insane. Because, look, don't get me wrong, I'm not some bodybuilder. Both me and you work out, so we're like, no, it's not like we're totally clueless when it comes to the gym. You play college football, so you've been through a training program and stuff like that, but you're familiar with working out as well, But it's like, so when you're bench pressing like 225, for example, right? It's not so much the heaviness of the weight. If you live long enough, for the most part, you should be able to hit 225 a couple times, right? If you bench press long enough, it's heavy weight, but it's not like crushing heavy, right? For a typical, I think, average size person. However, if you're talking about 325, I mean, that's most people's max. I'm talking about if you're like an average person who lifts a lot, you're fortunate if you get to 325 in your max. And to do that 22 times, because when you're repping a lot, it's not the heaviness of the weight, but it's the fatigue. So not only are you able to lift that weight, but your muscles have the endurance to lift it that many times. That's insane. It's insane.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what to say about that. That's wild. I wonder in the NFL Combine, looking down the road a bit, obviously, if they would still have him do the 225 test, or if he would add weight to it.
Dude,
I have no idea. I think they usually have them do 225.
If I was his agent, like if he hired an agent before the draft process, I would be like, when you go do your combine test, ask if you can do 325 as opposed to 225. But that'll be that'll be like my ultimate mic drop. Like, okay, kid, show up here. And I'm like, okay, well, can I do 325 instead? And can you imagine? Look, on the bar. Think about this. Think about the guy before Mazi Smith, and the guy before Mazi Smith. Let's say gets a respectable. I mean, dude, honestly, you see D lineman doing like 22, 25 reps. 225. That's like an average number at the combine. 225. That's not bad. That's pretty strong. Like if you do early mid 20s to 225. Yeah, some people get in the 30s, but it's not like a big shame. I think that's pretty standard for a linebacker, D lineman. Somewhere. But so can you imagine, like, let's say the lineman before Mazi Smith goes up and does 29 reps of 225. And Mazi steps up and does like 25 or 325. Can you imagine the mic drop moment? Like, dude, like that would be incredible. So I hope that young man stays healthy, man, because he's gonna what we call the underwear Olympics in March or February. He's gonna do well.
Yep, absolutely. So a couple people have mentioned DJ Turner, and he is number 31 on the list. So I'll read this off quickly. Former 3-star recruit who's made big strides in Ann Arbor. He's grown from 177 pounds to 187 pounds, so put on 10 pounds. Fastest guy in the Wolverines, having hit 23 0.07 miles per hour on the GPS and run a 4.2840 out
Wow.
of a 2-point stance, no less. His 3-cone time is even more stunning, clocked at 6.29 this offseason, and strength coaches think he has a good shot at besting the combine record of 6.28 set in 2018 by Oklahoma's Jordan Thomas. That'd be pretty impressive. I am not going to watch that video, but it looks like there's a video of him running a 40.
Yeah, I get enough of those videos doing the combine. I don't need it now. I get enough. I'm past the underwear Olympic stage when there's nothing going on, and watching guys win their 40 times is the biggest football highlight you can find. But I would like same thing with Mazi Smith. Mazi or Max. I already forgot his name. Sorry, guys.
Mazi.
It's same with Mazi Smith. Just find a way to get it to translate on the field. Richard Sherman had a really slow 40 time. But is a potential Hall of Fame corner. So it's a lot that goes into it besides his physical ability. That's a huge part of it. Don't get me wrong, but you got to find a way to tap into it. Especially being a corner. It's important to have makeup speed, but what I would say even more important is hip turn and technique, being able to read, adjust, ball adjustment, sight adjustment. Being able to recognize patterns and stuff like that, all different types of X's and O's. So that's great for DJ Turner for the physical ability, but once again, it needs to translate.
Agreed.